Thank you for listening to An American Philosophy. The Quaker Holy Experiment in Pennsylvania ultimately failed when they withdrew from the colonial government over the establishment of a militia. Of course, their success changed the course of history, and yet, over the next century, the Quaker faith and practice nearly extinguished itself. 19th century American Friends were uncompromising virtue signalers and unbending political activists. They drove away men and families and welcomed shrill scolds, spinsters, and childless political activists. Sound familiar? By the early 20th century, American Quakerism was little more than a faint echo of the booming voices in colonial Pennsylvania heard around the world. Americans today have much in common and much to learn, both positive and negative, from those early Quakers. Those who breed succeed, and those who do not always wind up in the scrap heap of history. Of the 5 Quaker testimonies, simplicity and integrity can be individual labors, but community, equality, and peace are always cooperative efforts. Without the production of children from stable households, there can be no community, no one to be at peace with, no equality to recognize. A culture can get away with this in the short run by importing people rather than conceiving babies and raising children into productive adults. But eventually this too will fail and the culture destroyed. The Quakers of Pennsylvania set in motion the events that led to the most significant political achievement in the history of mankind, the United States of America. And their ideas, promulgated in the frames of Pennsylvania and the Assembly, infected the rest of the American colonies. Without the Quakers, there would be no Pennsylvania. And as I said before, without Pennsylvania, there would be no Thomas Paine, no Independence Hall, no War for Independence, and no United States Constitution. Not since ancient Greece had the world enjoyed this level of self-rule and the recognition of the rights of the individual. And it all stemmed from the Quaker testimonies of simplicity, integrity, community, equality, and peace, and the absolute rejection of coercion and violence for moral, political, or personal agendas. Imagine, if you will, a family, a community, a people, or a culture that lived by the principles of the Quaker testimonies as I have defined them here. Imagine a set of principles grounded in reason and applied in a practical sense to your everyday life, with the encouragement of the people around you. Imagine respecting the life, property, and the efforts of your neighbors and a willingness to participate in the open competition of a free society while refusing to initiate the use of force or coercion, where interactions are voluntary and the state is limited to enforcing contracts and the use of retaliatory force against those who violate the prohibition of the initiation of the use of force. These were the ideals of liberty the Quakers of colonial Pennsylvania gave the world that has since died by 1,000 cuts. But it is not out of reach. I shall close with this quote from David Brooks. Quote, "Society changes when a small group of people finds a better way to live, and then the rest of us copy them." Unquote. To the reader, most of the nonfiction published today takes 80,000 words to tell what they could have said in 15,000 words. The economics of the publishing industry before the age of the internet demanded a full-sized book. Some of us used to call those a quote-unquote thud document. That's when you drop it on a publisher's or a professor's desk and it goes thud. Didactic fiction, I also write fiction, should entertain. Nonfiction should get to the point, make the point, and move on. I endeavor to write concise and nutritionally dense nonfiction that I hope will provide excellent value for the money. If you like my ideas about community, perhaps you will read the series that begins with 7 Years of Famine. Thank you. I'm Gregory Thomas Jeffers. Hi, I'm Greg Jeffers, author of the best-selling book, Prosperous Homesteading. I'm an author, writer, blogger, and homesteader. This is my labor of love. My latest novel, 7 Years of Famine, is available now at Amazon. Thank you.